Hello, Chris Mann here with you again. As I've said before in these videos, I'm the pastor at Mawson Lakes Community Church and also pastor at Endeavour College. I serve on the board of Lutheran Community Care and I have my own leadership business, Lifelong Leaders. And I'm here today again talking with Anna Dakey from Journeys, who's a self-care specialist, Brené Brown certified coach and consultant. Really great to be able to have you here with us again, Anna.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back.
Wonderful. I really enjoyed these chats that we've been doing, and there's one more set of questions that I want to ask you, or one particularly big question I want to ask you in terms of self-care during a crisis, and that's in regards to being a leader. For those of you who are watching at home, as a leader myself, I have people that I speak to about self-care. One of them is a mentor who speaks into my life around self-care and leadership, and the other person who talks to me that I go and approach is Anna, because Anna's quite helpful for me in this area of self-care and leadership. She's quite blunt sometimes with me, but she can do that because I've given her permission to do that. She might be far more gentle, I would assume, with clients. But Anna, can you speak into how leaders during this crisis, how they can take care of themselves?
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you're asking and that we're having this conversation, because sometimes leaders can almost get missed when the leaders are thinking about their staff and their team or whoever it is that they lead. And so often, or sometimes as leaders, we can kind of forget to look after ourselves because we're so focused on making sure we lead our team well or looking after our staff or whoever it is. So I guess the core part to start with this is that a lot of the self-care stuff for leaders is similar or the same to other ways that we look after ourselves, maybe when we're not in a leadership role, sorry. And so I guess the biggest thing that I always encourage with leaders is, as a leader, like across the board in other ways that we lead, is we need to lead by example. If there's going to be any, I guess, positive experience from staff or team about how a particular organisation is going through this particular pandemic, for example, it's going to be how well did they as staff feel looked after. The challenge with that is that a leader looks after their staff better when they're looking after themselves. And when they're modelling the things that they want for their staff. So if a leader wants their staff to be looking after themselves, to be making good decisions, to be asking for help, all those sorts of things, then a leader needs to do that as well. So the first thing that I always say in any self-care area is the importance of what I call the self-care basics. So nutrition, exercise, sleep, and self-compassion. So those four areas are what I call self-care basics, in the sense that they're the foundational things that we need to do to look after ourselves. So exercising regularly, I always say 3 to 4 times a week, but exercise for mental health, not so much for burning calories and losing weight. So when I say mental health, I mean walk around the block, get out into nature, breathe in some relatively fresh air, feel the wind on your face and the sun on your face. So exercise is an important one. The other one is nutrition. So just making sure that we have a balanced, healthy diet, trying to avoid sugar binges or carb binges or whatever it is, those things that we kind of tend to run towards when things are stressful for us, that we think is going to help to alleviate the stress. So keeping, as I said, healthy, balanced diet. The other one is sleep. So making sure that, as adults, the research says that we're supposed to get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep a night. A lot of people don't actually get that as adults. And I think when we're stressed or we've got a lot going on, sometimes we need to work further into the night. And so we're going to bed at 12, 1, maybe 2 o'clock and getting up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. But it's so important that we try and get as much sleep before 12 a.m. as possible. There's research that says when we do that, we get a better quality of sleep. So thinking about your sleep patterns and even trying to create a sleep routine, for lack of a better word, and being able to try and go to bed at the same time, every night and get up at the same time every morning, so that there's some consistency for your body clock, and for your routine. And then the last self-care basic is self-compassion, really being so kind to ourselves that, you know, this is a stressful time, there's a lot going on, and, you know, we just need to be kind to ourselves because none of us have done this before. So they're I guess the first things that I always look at for leaders to make sure that they're doing. And it's about them doing it so they can then encourage their staff to do the same thing, and that modeling kind of concept.
Yeah.
Do you do that? How does that fit for you as a leader?
Well, I was thinking nutrition I'm not doing so great on. Nutrition's a hard one for me. I think I'm doing, particularly during this last one, self-compassion, I think I'm doing very well on. Knowing that there is only so much that I can do, knowing that there are things that I am not getting to, that I just have to accept that that's part of the reality of how it is, and that I cannot do anything, and that I'm prepared to say that to myself without feeling bad, without feeling guilt or shame about that.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing okay at the exercise, and I'm definitely doing well with the sleep. That was actually a high priority for me early on, to go, all right, I need a certain amount of sleep, and I function best at certain times of the day, so I need to be in bed by a certain time each day to make sure. And that meant giving up some things, but that was necessary and important for me. So I've had a very consistent sleeping pattern actually during this last month or so.
And that's so good. And I think something else that you touched on around the self-compassion is another thing that I would really encourage for leaders is, in this time, there's extra things that need to be done, right? There's things that are abnormal to your normal task list. And so being able to be kind to yourself and maybe, you know, move the goalposts in some ways to go, you know what, there are some things that just aren't going to get done, and that's okay for the time that we're in. And also, you know, with that as well is kind of going, I'm still human and I can only do so much. And so being able to look at how big this is and how, you know, how much it's impacting your team, but you as well, and your family, right? As a leader, how you deal with things that are going on at work is going to by default impact your family or whoever's living in your household. So really being able to look at it and go, you know what, this is not normal. I don't know how to do this. Maybe I've been in other crises, but this is different again, and there's different things that I'll need to look at. So again, being kind to yourself and being able to go, you know what, I can only do what I can do. And by you stretching yourself so far so that you can do your normal tasks plus all of the crisis stuff is not going to help anyone. It's not going to help your team. It's not going to help you, and it's not going to help your family. So being able to go, take a step back and go, okay, I'm going to re-look at everything that I've got to do. What is it that can just be pushed back a little bit? And what are the things that just actually do need to be done? And so being able to kind of review that and maybe shift your thinking around the expectations that you're putting on yourself and also on your staff team, because it's a similar kind of thing. You know, if you're in a school, for example, the goalposts have totally shifted for how teachers teach. And so, you know, in the crisis stage, they were very much needing to go, oh my gosh, we're expected to put, you know, all of our teaching online. How does that work? Plus I'm still teaching in class as well. Plus I'm like, so the poor teachers are going, what the heck? Like, I don't even know how to do this. We didn't get taught this at uni, how to put our stuff online, you know. So everyone in the crisis as leaders, but also those who you're leading, are going through that process of going, okay, we've got our normal tasks, but we've also got a whole range of new things that we don't even know how to do. So I think that's really important to look at, you know, re-looking at how the goalposts have moved.
When goalposts shift, I've noticed this myself, that when the goalposts shift, and particularly doing something new, that your emotional world shifts. And that as a leader, my emotional world has shifted. You got any thoughts in terms of managing that emotional change that happens for leaders?
Yeah, so again, completely normal if that's happening for you as a leader, right? Because we're not any different to the average person. We're still dealing with all of the change as well as trying to, lead our team well. So I think a key thing for that is to honor yourself and your emotions and your thoughts and your behaviors and how you're processing it. And one of the key ways to process it can be through, doing professional debriefing, however that looks, maybe with a mentor or with a counselor or your supervisor or whoever it is that you feel safe with. It's really important that you feel like you can be 100% honest. And if that means you need to see someone outside of your work environment, so that you can vent about maybe the processes that are happening in your work environment or whatever it is, then that's what you need to do. So a key part of honoring our own emotions and being able to process our own stuff is by just simply talking about it and having a safe place to be able to debrief that. And I know for you, that concept of counseling or debriefing or mentoring has been really helpful in the past as well.
Yeah, it's been a huge factor. And for any of you watching, I say in my church and I say at other places, I think I might even have said it in the first of these videos that we did, that if you haven't ever been to see someone for professional help, someone wants you to. That's just the reality of how we are, and especially if you're a leader, because you've got your own, as a leader, all your unprocessed junk, for want of a better term, or your unprocessed gear in your life, it doesn't just affect you, but it affects the people around you, and especially at a time like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, when you learn to honor what's happening for you, again, as a leader, you'll be much more compassionate towards your staff or your team who are also processing things. And so, all of us are going to deal with this in different ways. And so, some people will use humor to get through what's going on for them. Some people will just get really practical and it's like, I need to get this stuff done and I'm not going home until I get it done, because then I can go home and it's done. Some people will be what may look like or seem like over emotional, and they might cry more or snap at you or whatever it is. And so again, that stuff is it's normal, because everyone is processing differently a crisis, and we all deal with a crisis in a different way based on our upbringing, based on past experiences, based on personality. Lots of different things impact how we actually process what's going on for us in a crisis. And even now, as we kind of move into a new kind of normal, people will deal with that differently, and some will be like, nah, don't want to get used to this new normal, and others will be kind of like, I think there's some positives, And so as a leader, when you know what is going on for yourself, you will then just so much more naturally be able to honor and support your team and your staff to be able to be okay with what's going on for them. And so that debriefing, knowing it for yourself, is vital to be able to then do it in a really healthy, strong, clear way as a leader for your staff and your team.
Yep. Thanks. I'd like to wrap up in a moment, but just one last thing you talked about, relating to a team. What do team members, staff, volunteers, whoever we're working with, what do they need from a leader to help during the crisis in terms of self-care? What do they need most from their team leader?
A couple things that come to mind. One is permission to do whatever it is that they need to do to be able to function and be at their best. Now, that can be a challenge, because as a leader, we might be like, what do you mean, whatever they need? We can't be letting them they might be like, oh, sorry, I need 12 months off. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is them being able to ask for what they need, meaning, you know what, I'm really overwhelmed and I don't think I'm doing my job well. I actually need a day off to rest, rejuvenate, to just step back, do whatever it is that they need to do so that they can come back in 2 days' time and actually be present and do their job well. As a leader, if you give your staff permission to be able to ask for what they need, now you may not just go, yeah, sure, but it'll invite an open conversation. And that's the other thing is, so permission, and the other one is just creating a safe, open, communicating space for you to be able to communicate with your staff and for your staff to be able to communicate with you. And so that's where the asking for what you need comes into place. And as a leader, you're allowed to ask for what you need as well, right? So asking yourself, in my environment, what is it that I need to be able to deal with this? Do I need some space in an afternoon? So I need to actually block out seeing, having staff meetings or having client meetings or whatever, because I know in the afternoon I do my admin best. Or is it the other way around, that in the morning you need to block out that time so you can get your head around the processes that need to be put into place? Or is it maybe you need a day off? You're allowed to take a day off. As a leader, you're allowed to do that, right? So, and it's amazing. Like one particular leader that I've worked with recently, she has been working on this for a while. So granted, it's something that she's been working on, but she is now reaping the benefits of dealing with this crisis, and her team have come together like you wouldn't believe, because they've seen her practice self-care. And so now when they need it most, she's giving them permission to be able to ask for what they need, have open communication, and be courageous and vulnerable with what it is that is going on for them. So yeah, I think permission and open communication, I think, is really important for all of us as a team and also as leaders.
That really shows the benefit of being a leader and being able to take care of yourself. That flow on effect, that's huge.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those insights, Anna, and thank you for sharing this time with me and with those who are watching online. Really appreciate how you're serving me and serving the wider community through these videos. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. It's been really fun to be able to talk about this, especially at this time when things are a bit crazy. And so it's important to make space to talk about the hard things. So thank you.
Thanks, Anna.